Key's fine.
Kiana?
No.
Did I say it right? No. What do you go by? Because I honestly I just totally forgot.
I go by Ken.
Ken. Okay.
My name's Kennedy.
Okay. Cool.
I personally don't care that much.
All right. Thanks for letting me know, Ken. I like it. All right. Have we started rolling or? Oh, okay.
Oh, we're rolling. That actually would kind of eat as like an intro. Okay. Let me get like because I'm also like that interview was so intense, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm
valid.
so tired. Okay. Hey everyone, it's Ken here again with Cowrie Archives. We are jumping into our next interview for our Black History Month series with Soul Food Cypher NEXT. And I'm here today with Bijou.
What's up, y'all?
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, first of all. My name is Bijou. I'm a comedian, actor, nerd, general enjoyer of things. Yeah, I guess I can dig into my story because that's what everyone else did. So I'll just jump right into my childhood. There's so much about it, I guess. All right, so I grew up, born and raised in Atlanta, Northside Hospital. I'm a child of Nigerian immigrants, and I love more than anything being Nigerian. It's so much fun. It's so great. The food to me is like so incredible. I guess this is a tangent now, but like I've recently started like learning how to make like my own cultural foods, like jollof rice and egusi soup and pounded yam and all that, and that's been great for me to be able to connect with like my own culture through the experience of food, and it's very good, very fun. Outside of that, as a comedian, I grew up. I was always like interested in like artistic things and the arts and stuff like that, and so I started off with music in a lot of different ways. So first off, my dad actually was a producer of music. He would like make beats all the time in our basement, and he would always like he was play his beats for me. They weren't like always like strictly rap, but like some of them like you could rap on. A lot of them were like kind of jazzy. He had like a lot of different inspirations, but I remember in the house, so like he had like a studio set up like in our basement, and he also used to work with a few other producers named Bobby and Al. And like every once in a while, there'd be like somebody that would come through and like do a recording and stuff. And sometimes I'd get to sit in, and so I got to like see the process of like what it's like to like make music, like really early on. So that was actually really cool. But I didn't really like start doing it myself until it was like I was in high school, and and that was like very independent. Like didn't really involve my dad too much. I did use a few of his beats at sometimes, but the way that he did them, like when I think of rap, like a lot of times it's like very structured. Like you got 16 bars and you got a 4-bar hook and then 16 bars and then like that, and then like a bridge. Sometimes. But my dad's beats were not like that. They were very freeform, and it was like it was kind of hard to like be like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna do the verse here and then I'll do the hook here and then sometimes it would go off the rails, and like there's value in that for sure, but at the time like what I was trying to do wasn't really like matching that exactly. But I did have some friends that were also interested in rap and everything like that, and they were like very good at making beats, and so like we got together, we made a group, and we would just after school all the time just and my friend, he had an iMac, like one of those the old 17-inch white iMacs, and he also he was a rich kid for sure, so his dad got him Pro Tools, and so like we didn't know what we were doing exactly, but but we had like access to like a lot of the technology to like just like play around and record stuff. And then not only that, but in terms of like the other creative stuff I do, I also did theater in high school. So that's like when I started doing like most of my acting things, and that was like the only extracurricular, so school sponsored extracurricular I had throughout high school was like it was just theater. I didn't play no sports. I didn't I didn't run any track. I didn't go to anything else. All I did was theater, and that was great.
I love a theater kid though.
Yeah, it was
Like I
so
love
much fun.
theater kids.
Yeah, shout out to Wicked. I just saw that. It was incredible. I saw it in theaters one, and then I just like saw it again on the streamings, and man, Cynthia fucking killed that. Sorry, I cursed. I didn't mean to do that, but
Whatever.
man, that is such a good movie. I can't wait for the second part. Okay, where was I in my brain space?
Theater.
Theater, yeah. So I did theater for all 4 years. So like like when I was a freshman, it was like the intro class to theater. So I didn't do like any stage productions, but the way it was at the school that I was at, um, there was like a specific class that you had to like be in, and then once you were in that class, you got casted in a place. So it wasn't really like an open audition kind of thing where like anybody in the school could just audition for a part. Like you had to be like in the class, and I think maybe you got 2 opportunities to do it a year, maybe, I don't know. But I remember my first audition for that class was so bad. It was so terrible. Like I'm honestly surprised that I even got it. And I think yeah, I don't know what it is that the directors saw in me at the time, but like I thought that I like completely bombed it, and I was like so surprised to get in. And yeah, it was like really special to have the experience of like getting on stage and performing for people. That's something that I hear from people a lot, is like how like public speaking is the greatest fear, right? And I can kind of understand that, but I don't feel that fear anymore. After my very first play, like I remember the experience of being like so nervous, like heart pumping out of the chest, like, oh my God, I'm about to totally suck. This is going to be the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. And then I got out, I did my parts, the play was done, we took a bow, and then I walked away, and I was like, oh, I'm still alive. This is great. And ever since then, I never really got stage fright again. It was just like, oh, it's like it's all entirely in your head, or it was for me at least. It was all entirely in my head. Like nothing really bad happened, even though like sure I messed up a few times, but like you're doing something that's incredibly hard. You have to like memorize a whole book, and uh, and so with that, after leaving high school, I didn't do any theater at all in college. And then like 4 years after college, I didn't do anything like that either. I was at the time I was kind of doing more music stuff than theater, but even then, it wasn't like really the same volume that I was doing it in high school. And then like I missed the feeling of being on stage, and I also didn't want to memorize another book. So I was like, what's the easiest way to get on stage without having to memorize a bunch of stuff? And I remembered in class, we did something called improv a few times. Not a lot, but just like every once in a while, like in between plays, we would like do exercises, and a lot of it was improv. And I was like, oh, I don't even know what improv looks like outside of like a school theater. And so I just like Googled up, or yeah, like improv classes Atlanta. And the first thing I went to, I was like, oh, it's class starting in 2 weeks. Okay, cool, let's go. And I signed up for the improv class. And then since then, like I just never looked back. It was like, oh man, improv. Yeah, this is the greatest thing in the world. I get to get on stage and get a bunch of attention, and I don't even have to memorize anything. Like it's exactly what I wanted. And so I got super deep into improv since then. And so like I went through like the entire class program, and that took like a year and a half. And then I got cast on at the theater that I was at on like one of the main casts. And I mean, I was doing improv. I was like so involved. I was doing like sometimes up to like 3 shows a week, which is insane. and it was insane and definitely unsustainable. It's but it was like it was just so much fun and like at the time. Okay, so a piece that I feel like I'm kind of leaving out of all of this is that the high school that I went to, as well as the theater that I was at, where I was doing improv, was like definitely like super PWI, like a bunch of white folks, um, and and it was just so weird because like at the time it was me and one other black guy that were there at this is at the improv theater now, and I can't tell you how many times that people confused us for each other, and it's just so weird because it's like there's only two of us. Can you really not tell the difference between me and like we don't even look the same? Like he was much taller and way more light skinned than I was. Like we don't look the same at all, and our names aren't even close. But everybody would be like, "Oh, I'm not gonna say his name out loud," but yeah. But yeah, it was just such a wild thing to continue to experience, and so something that has kind of developed in the improv community, especially in Atlanta now, is like there are a lot more Black people and people of color that are doing improv independently. And then also in 2020, after the pandemic, some of my friends and I, we decided that, the original theater that we were performing at closed down. And so we were like, okay, well, we have the ability to, create a space that is a bit more safe for people of color and Black people to experience what it's like to do improv. And that's the genesis of Onward Theater, of which I serve on the board for. I'm the marketing director. And we've been going for, yeah, I guess like about 2 years now, like
Oh, wow.
officially. Or actually, when did we get a space? Because I know we were doing like a lot of like outside, not outside, but like different shows, like in different places and things like that. But then we secured um, an actual space, not too far from here, actually, at Academy Lofts.
Okay.
Uh,
I think I know where that is.
yeah, yeah, it's like literally just like not even a block away from here. um, and yeah, well, anyway, I think it's been about a year, maybe a little bit longer than that since we got it. And that's been really great. We are a 501c nonprofit. We run on the community and donations, and we support independent producers to create their own shows, which is at least at the time when I was doing improv was a bit unheard of. Oh, I'm hitting the mic, sorry. And and that's the thing that I kind of like love the most about Onward and like what we're doing is like we're really empowering the community to do what they want to do. Whereas like when I was kind of coming up, it was like, well, they have a set show that runs every week, and you can audition to be on that cast. And if you want to make a show, well, maybe there's like 5 different levels of people that you got to talk to before you can get your own thing up. But we want to make that more accessible to people and a bit more equitable. So, yeah, and then also that's how I found my way to Soul Food Cypher. Actually.
Oh, I was gonna ask, where did comedy come in?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the improv is the comedy to me.
Oh.
Yeah. It is comedic improv.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I follow now.
But yeah, comedy means like so many different things. There's like a lot of different styles of it. So like there's like improv, there's stand up, there's like sketch, and each of those has their own like pros and cons, and things to like about them individually, like both as a performer and as an audience member to see them. And you said, where does the comedy come in?
Well, okay, because when you were like, oh yeah, I'm a comedian, I was thinking like stand up. And then you started talking about improv, so I was like, is that the comedy, or is it like improv and stand up and rapping? So I was like, what do you have going on?
Great question, and you're right. It is all three, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the stand up is a lot more new for me, but yeah. So let me weave through improv into freestyle and then to stand up because that's like kind of the path that I took.
Okay.
So I started Onward Theater with my group, and then we were actually here at Create ATL. This was like one of our early spaces that we were using, like before we got our own full dedicated space. And so we were teaching classes here, and then on one of the screens, like I saw um, my theater, our ad that was there. It's like, oh yeah, Onward Theater is like here, we're doing stuff. Yeah, Onward Theater's here, we're doing stuff. And then I saw Soul Food Cypher, and that they were like, oh yeah, it's like every fourth Sunday, it's like here happening at Create ATL. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that people freestyled in person like that. And I was like immediately intrigued. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely got to go check this out, because so like while I was in high school, it was like mostly like written raps is like what I was doing in recording, and like the freestyle part was not there, but it was not like a big thing for me. Like way back when I had posted a video of like me and one of my rap friends freestyling, and this was like back in the MySpace days. And so like it low-key went viral on MySpace, but only because of how bad it was, not because it was good. It was like, and so like it had never really been a thing for me, but it's like always something that seemed like so incredible. Like when you see somebody that can like freestyle for real, it's like how do you even do that? And I just like wanted to learn that, and so I came to the Cypher to check it out, and I started going for the first few times, and so I didn't rap the first time I went there. I just like came to see the vibes, and I was like, oh my god, like everybody is so good. This is crazy. Like what did I just step into? It was so wild. And then after I started coming a few more times, oh, is this room booked? Okay. Check break.
You can just keep going.
Oh, keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
So I started coming to Soul Food Cypher a few times. I didn't rap, and then some of the people that were there were like, "Yeah, man, you should rap. You should just do it. It's not gonna hurt you or whatever, right?" And so then I was like, "All right, cool. Next month I'm gonna sign up to be the rapper. I'm gonna get the rap pass, and I'm gonna do it." And I went up and I did it. It was awful. It was so bad. But even with that, it was like still very encouraging. So like that's one of the things that I appreciate the most about Soul Food Cypher is like one of the things that Mike Six says, who's like one of the frequent hosts. He says everybody gets love. It's like a core tenet of Soul Food Cypher. Everybody gets love. Like it doesn't matter where you are in your freestyle journey, whether you've like never freestyled before or have been freestyling for years. Like wherever it is that you're at, they'll take you as you are, and you will still get the encouragement and the praise that you are looking for. I mean, if that's something you're looking for, which I think most people are in the community part of it, you'll still get that. And that was just like really special to experience and witness. And so then I started coming like very frequently, and it was always the most terrifying thing in the world, because like even now, like today, I've been coming for like also about like a year and a half, and it's still not easy. I'm still not good at it. I'd say that I'm probably the I don't know, it's not really a good way to say, but probably the worst rapper here. Like truly. Not to say that I'm not capable, but it's like when I see like people that are operating like at the highest level, they've been freestyling for like 20 years or longer, like their whole life. It's like I experience like sparks of that every once in a while. Like I'll feel like the part of my brain like turn on when I go into a flow state, and it's like really snap on a beat or whatever, and it's like incredible. Pause.
No, keep going.
Okay. It's insane, and so like knowing what's possible like just makes me want to keep going. So that's like another big reason of like why I continue to like also come to the ciphers and everything is because like I know where I am at my level, and I have also like experienced a lot of growth with it. uh, and it's what I think is one of the most difficult creative endeavors I've ever undertaken is learning how to freestyle. But with like Soul Food Cyber just like creates the environment that is like very conducive to um, taking you wherever it is that you're at and building you up to be wherever it is that you want to take it. Right.
Right. And so being in Soul Food Cypher Next specifically as like a subset within that,
Mm-hmm.
what have been like some of the ways that you feel like being a part of that has been able to help you build up your skill?
Yeah. So I think with Soul Food Cypher Next, SFC Next specifically, honestly, it was like mostly just like the frequency, because like the general ciphers they happen like once a month, and then when you're an SFC member, also occasionally we'll have like secret ciphers where we'll meet up in not create ATL, just like a different location and
Random parking lot.
like a random parking lot, yeah. But when I joined SFC Next, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be meeting weekly every Sunday for 3 months," and I was like, "Oh my god, that is so intense." And then also at the time, I was also taking stand-up comedy classes, so like it felt like I was taking on like a whole new curriculum.
You were like in college again.
I did feel like I was in college again. I was taking notes on freestyle, I was taking notes on comedy, and I was like going back and like trying to reorganize all my thoughts on everything. And I was just like, oh man, I was learning a lot and creating a lot, and it was a whole semester of of like creative learning, which was such a good experience. Um, and so like the frequency, and then also knowing that every week you show up either to comedy class or to SFC Next, it's like you're going to be held accountable to your cohort of like, I mean, did you write any jokes last week? Did you practice freestyling last week? We're gonna find out because we're gonna meet together.
Get in the booth.
Get in the booth.
Get in the booth.
Exactly. And so I mean, having a group of people to be accountable to, I think that's, if there's anything that you're trying to learn, I think that's probably just one of the best things. Well, that's one of the best things I can do for sure. Let me not speak on other people. Maybe some people can learn in a vacuum, and I can too for certain things. But for like, I think for like more hands-on skills, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a hands-on skill doing comedy and freestyling. Uh, yeah, I just like just finding a community of people that can, keep you honest, keep you on your toes, and kind of push you to think in different ways about what it is that you're doing. That's so invaluable. Like other people have mentioned a few times already, like the way one person does something is totally different than the way somebody else does it, and just watching somebody do it in a different setting is like will make you think like, oh wait, I saw somebody do like I saw somebody mess up and then they started like beatboxing and scratching to like kind of cover it, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do, like at all. Because I mean, I'm definitely still at the level where it's like, sometimes like I'll be rapping and then like I won't know, I won't have anything to say next, and um, just like knowing that it's okay to like know that, or it's okay to not have anything to say, but you just like keep letting words come out of your mouth. Eventually, something's gonna come out, even if it doesn't make any sense in the moment. Like the more you do it, the more you are able to like dig into that subconscious and find the parts that you want to like speak on. Um, and that is such a good feeling. That is like also sort of happens in comedy and improv, but it's like maybe it's like two different sides of the same coin, where it's like you're tapping into that subconscious, but like for different purposes. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like maybe there's like two parts of your brain, and one is like your comedy side, and one is like your freestyling side.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you ever feel like they merge or like they inform each other?
Um, yes and no. I think that so, so I've been kind of in my brain like I have like 7 8 years of improv experience, right, of like just getting up and saying whatever to make people laugh.
Well,
And
yeah.
and so freestyling is related in that you are also just like getting in front
Getting
of
up and
people
saying
and just saying
anything.
whatever. And so you think that they'd be like very very related, but they're actually very different in that yes, like fundamentally you are doing the same thing, but with freestyle you are like I've been kind of like saying that it's more like learning a new language than it is like learning how to like move parts of your body to like do a certain thing or to like think of uh, like different situations that you can put yourself in.
Hmm.
Um, because with improv, it can be played like very fast, but it can also be like very slow in that since you are uh, with you're like you don't do improv by yourself. It's like you're on stage with one other person or a group of people, and you're both like creating a world around you, and you're responding to each other. So like somebody says something and it's like, well, this makes me think of this, and so I'm gonna do this, and then for them, that's gonna be like, oh, well, now this makes me think of this other thing that is like somewhat related. And with that back and forth, it's like you have time to like kind of like breathe in a space and like find out what is the most interesting part of that scene or that interaction. And with freestyling, it's like when you're in a cipher, it is also, I mean, you're like with people, you can like riff off of each other. But like in the moment when you're spitting a verse, it's like it's just you and your brain and what's coming out of your own mouth. Uh, and that part is where like the language part comes in to me because like you do have to like you're speaking Spanish earlier. I know some Spanish. I took Spanish in high school, and I've been also learning Japanese like from college and through Duolingo. I have like a 600 some day streak for
I think I know
no
a little
reason.
Japanese.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so like and so like when I'm shifting into like thinking in another language, that's what it feels like when I'm shifting into
Huh.
freestyling. It's like
Interesting.
I have to think of you know how I'm organizing my words and how I'm like making the rhymes if they even come. Sometimes they don't because I'm still learning. It's like like when you're learning a new language and you know that there's a word for a certain thing, but there's only so many words that you have, and so you do your best to like kind of describe. It's like I can't think of an example right now, but
I get it.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, like when it comes to language, it's so interesting that you say that, or that you think of freestyling as another language.
Mm,
Like, I haven't really thought of it in that kind of concept before.
mm.
I would kind of like to hear you dig into it, like how related it is to learning a new language.
Oh yeah, yeah. So when I say that it's like learning a new language, I mean that you do have to study it. You do have to study. You have to study rhyme words. You have to like think of rhymes ahead of time. In that uh, it's like you like the words that you're using are words that you are going to use at another time, just like in a different format. So like the same way that you learn like translations in Spanish, like you learn like different rhyme words together uh, ahead of time, and then like and not to say that it's because like you're writing ahead of time because it's not that. It's just like when you are sitting in a room and trying to come up with those rhyme words, it's like you have like um, those words that are related in your head, and then like as you're thinking of content, it's like so okay, now I'm talking about this thing, and then it's reminding me of this thing, but then also I have this rhyme that is like next to it, right? And so it's like you have like that foundation of like the words, and then you're just like mixing and matching them like to a specific situation that you find yourself in.
Hmm.
Um, And so that's why I think it's like closer to like language learning than
Yeah.
it is any other.
It's like when you learn grammar for the first time and then you
Right.
finally start putting the sentences together and then
Yeah.
you're like, I feel so powerful.
Exactly. And it's interesting too because I feel like like when you're learning improv and comedy, like there are rules to it, and they're like loose rules, but rules nonetheless. Like you've heard of maybe the yes and, right? Um, no, okay, well maybe other people haven't either. So I'll just so like when you're doing an improv scene, like one of the most fundamental things is like you yes and whatever your partner has said, right? And that just means like you acknowledge the new reality that they have created and then continue creating within that reality by adding more onto it. So if somebody says like, I'm a pencil, you can't be like, no, you're a pirate. That's, you're now negating them and you're not on the same page. So whatever is going to come out for the rest of that scene is just not going to make any sense because you haven't acknowledged what the reality of the new situation is, right? And so that's like one of the more fundamental rules of improv, and then like there's more that you can build on top of it to create successful scenes, quote unquote. Like but they're all pretty soft rules in that, but the yes and is pretty fundamental. Like I don't think you can really go far in any improv situation if you're not on the same page, because then the audience is confused, you're both, the people on the stage are confused, and then it's like, well, I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna check out, and I don't find this funny. Actually, I think it's weird. So but with freestyle, I and maybe there are rules and I just don't know them. Maybe there are and I don't know, but I think that there are less rules in that, or like the only or the main rule is like, you got to rhyme the words, right? It's like that's I think it's like probably one of the more fundamental things. But like outside of that, in terms
Maybe
of like
stay on beat.
stay on beat, yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, if you can do that, do it. um, Staying on beat, I guess like counting bars, that's very hard for me. I can't count and talk at the same time. I've definitely been trying to learn how to do that. It's so hard. Uh, and so yeah, so like rhyming, staying on beat, but like in terms of like what it is you're saying, like how you're expressing it, I think there are less rules in that regard. And so with that, with like having a bit more freedom, uh and where it's like you really can say whatever you want, you can do it any way that you want. So like the building blocks that you have are what end up being the content that you create, right? And so that's um where that language learning comes in, is like you like even if you don't like study the art, I guess you probably, if like you have a certain amount of talent or whatever, you probably can get far just like doing it casually. um but I think that if you are, or like me as like a somewhat studious person, like I've just noticed like the more that I've like kind of built out like my own rhyme book and kind of like studying words and just like reading random words that I um, didn't even know English had, right? That's the part where it's like, yeah, it does feel like I'm learning a new language, because I'm just learning vocabulary and like learning new ways that I can implement this vocabulary in different situations.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say that you like study freestyling, would you say it's more in that kind of sense, or do you ever kind of go back into like the history of freestyling or just rap history in general to kind of try to inform the way that you like start to integrate those things into your style?
Yeah. So that was what SFC Next was. That's what we were learning primarily, honestly, like through the program, was rap history and hip hop history, um, and how everything that we create now, we are standing on the shoulders of the giants and our forefathers that came before us that were doing it before. There's that phrase that everything is a remix, and what we're doing is not any different. Like the way that it comes out of us is different because we are all shaped by our own like unique experiences, but we are imitating the people that did it before us in our own unique way, right? And so I feel like for me personally, I still don't think that I'm at a skill level where I can say like, oh yeah, I was like definitely inspired by this person to like do it in this particular way. Not to say that I don't have inspirations, like uh, the rappers that I love the most are like Ludacris. This is who I listened to like all up and down high school. And when I was first rapping, it was definitely like I was inspired by Ludacris, but I didn't take his style necessarily because like he's like very bombastic and like bodacious like when he's rapping and like very loud, and that's not who I am. Like as a person on the inside,
You're
I'm
just a
like
chill guy.
I'm a very chill dude. So so even though like I love Ludacris, like the parts of Ludacris I love the most was like his wordplay and how goofy he was. Because like I'm a goofy person. Like I want to make a music video like Get Back where I have like giant arms and stand up where he has like the big ass shoes and shit like that, right? Like I love that goofy side of the rap. And so like that's the kind of things that I was kind of taking into like when I was writing, and even now when I'm freestyling, like I take that the fantastical imagination and like the and also like my personal monotone uh weird shit that there was a phrase that I was using before and I can't remember right now, but uh yeah, like it's just like absurdist monotone, whereas like I'm saying very ridiculous things but like very seriously, and that dichotomy to me is very funny. And so
Hmm.
um and so that's what I take into like my own raps now. And this, and similarly like my other inspirations are like Childish Gambino. um I've seen every single one of his performances here in Atlanta. And yeah, I mean, I just, and he's also from Atlanta himself, Stone Mountain, and I just really love the way that he plays with like different genres and how he's able to like. I mean, he also has a comedy background and acting as well, and so like the way that he's able to like mold himself to like do different styles even within just music. Like one of his albums sounds completely different than the next one right after it. And so like that kind of ability to kind of like shift your art style to kind of take on new personas, new characters within the character of the persona of Childish Gambino, right, is something I really appreciate as somebody that does acting and character work and things like that. It's like I also would like to be able to, shift my perspective and like rap from not only like my own lived experience, but also like the lived experience, or the not lived experience, but like the ideas of another way of thinking, from perspectives that are not my own.
I'm actually glad you brought Childish Gambino up because you really remind me of him.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know. I didn't think it was gonna become relevant if you didn't mention it, but I'm glad you mentioned it because I was like, I'm getting some Childish Gambino.
Yeah. I've heard that before. And it's okay. I've accepted it. It is what it is.
I mean, you love his music, so
yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very inspired by him and what he's been able to do. And besides, like I've gushed about Ludacris and Childish, and I guess other inspirations, I'll just like run through like Lupe Fiasco. I really love his early work specifically, but also his more recent albums have actually been pretty good too. And then also like Busta Rhymes, I just like love. I love like the fast paced.
I see the pattern.
Yeah.
It's like those rappers that like they have good characters. They're very like expressive.
Yeah.
Like they have a lot of different styles. Like I really see that. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I saw you rap in November, and you are good. So I don't know why you keep like being like I can't do that. I'm like I'm sure you can.
Maybe it's a personal thing. I don't know, but I feel like where I'm at right now is like, if somebody like asks me to freestyle, I'm capable of doing it.
Freestyle
like,
right now.
Do it. But will it be like the best thing in the world? No, it's not. It's not gonna be the best freestyle ever. I'm gonna mess up a few times, but can I get through it? Yeah. That's where I'm at right now, honestly. And so it feels bad sometimes, but like it and maybe it's just because I'm like in an environment where there are like actual monsters in the cipher, like people that can wrap circles around any mainstream artist, in my opinion. And like just like being able to like witness that and see what's actually possible, and knowing that I'm not there quite yet, but I mean, like, will I get there? I don't know. I'm gonna keep doing it though, because I'm not like doing it so I can be the best freestyler in the world necessarily. I'm just doing it because I like it. Because I like the experience of it. I like being able to express myself in different ways, and I like and the being able to make people smile for whether it's because it's bad or because like maybe I said something that was like really profound or something. I don't know. But that's what I like the most about comedy too, is because my favorite emotion is joy, and I love smiling. I love laughing, and I think that we should be laughing and smiling more, just in general. I don't know if this is true, but there's this like stat. I don't know if it's a real stat. That's like the average adult laughs 5 times a day, and the average child laughs 300 times a day.
Oh.
And I think that's crazy, because what are adults but children with problems and whiskey?
Yeah.
Right.
And corporate jobs.
And corporate jobs, right? With responsibilities.
I mean, there's nothing funny about corporate jobs.
Yeah. As somebody with a corporate job currently, no, there's not really anything funny about it. They like to think that there is something funny about it, but there's really not. It's I don't want to get into corporate stuff.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on. But in any case, like, I just think that there is space to spread more joy in the world, and that's what I want to do. I want to show people that you can do whatever you want. Like, you don't need to ask permission to do stuff, right? Like, and you don't have to be good at it either, because I think that I'm okay. I guess, like, I'd say that I'm exceptionally mediocre at a lot of the things I do, but I still do it anyway, because it's not necessarily about being the best. Like, if you want to be the best and you want to like put that time in to like do that, then go for it also. But you can also just like be a casual enjoyer of a thing and be successful in that way, and still get to be around the people that are doing it at a different level than you, and that's in itself is inspiring.
Yeah. How would you say that you feel like you've grown in like a community sense, as like with Soul Food Cypher? Because I feel like the common thing a lot of people say is that it feels like such a family and such a community. And like, of course, you've already shared how you've grown in terms of rap, but like, also have you also felt like you've grown kind of as a person?
Have I grown as a person because of rap? Oh. That's a really good question. I want to say yes, but I'm trying to think of like how specifically. Yeah, I would say yes in that like for the community aspect of it, this is unlike any community that I've experienced before, in that one, we're doing something really unusual. It's not normal for or like, when I say normal, I mean it's like most people are not going to get out of bed and go to a group of people where we're just like freestyling off the cuff, because it's like a very scary thing to do. It's very terrifying. Even if you are good at it, I'm sure like there's always like something in the back of your head that's like, I don't know if this is going to be the one for me. Like, it can be affected by things that are going on in your personal life, and it's like, it's not always going to be like the thing, right? But yeah, so we're doing something that's really weird. It's like very specific. It's not like a lot of folks that are doing it, and because of like that shared experience, it's like this is that thing that we want to do. People like us do things like this, right? It's like how some people define culture. So like, we're creating our own culture around this very weird, in my opinion, nerdy thing that we do in freestyle.
I mean, you do, like, when you put it like that, it's like, okay, maybe it's a little nerdy.
and I say nerd with all love because like I'm super nerdy in many different ways, but like when you like one specific thing like that much, that's all nerdy shit, right? uh, and so yeah, and so like being able to find a group of people that are like doing a thing that you want to do, like I think that's totally invaluable. Um, and the way that I've grown is like getting to watch the other people in the community do their thing, and so I can like take nuggets of like how somebody else did something, be like, oh, okay, so I didn't know that that was a thing I could do. I didn't know that was a thing that was even possible. Um, and so maybe I can incorporate some of that into mine, and then I can also, even more importantly, if you're in a community with people, that means you get to talk to them and like ask them questions. Be like, hey man, how did you do that? How did you do that? What did you do? What was like? Give me the specific step by steps that allowed you to get to this level. I've been able to ask like so many different people in Soul Food Cypher to just like talk about, what happens like when they get in their zone to them. So like, Rio was talking on the earlier interview about how he says like, oh yeah, I disappear, and personally, I don't know what to make of that because I I don't disappear. I'm very much in my head the entire time, and I'm like, oh my god, what's about to come out? I have no idea. And so it's like I don't know what's happening, but like it comes out anyway. But I'm definitely like in the moment, like, oh my god, that was a weird thing to say. I guess I'll just say that was a weird thing to say, and then say what was weird about it. That kind of thing. And then with like other members, it's like, oh yeah, I do this like one specific thing. Like I'll try to think of a word and then I'll try to do a whole verse without saying that word. And then at the end of it, I'll say the word. And it's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting technique. I can try to do that. And so like being able to like have access to all these people that are like at the top of their game. And a lot of times I know that with people that do perform at a high level, they don't always know what's going on inside of their own brain too. Like, which is why, sometimes in like sports, right? Like some of the best players don't always make the best coaches because sometimes you're just like a really good player and you don't really know what it is about you specifically that made you such a good player. Um, but having access to them to be able to like kind of dig in and be like, okay, well, what do you mean by this? Can you say more words around that? Like the same way that you asked me about what do you mean by it's learning a language? So like having that access to people that are doing something that you want to do at like a much higher level, I think that's like totally invaluable. And then also they like you, so they're gonna talk to you. um, and I know that uh, in a lot of situations when it's like it kind of comes down to like a networking thing, right? It's like, well, I don't want to bother that person because they're so busy and they're not gonna want to talk to little Bijou about whatever it is that they're doing. But actually, I think that most people who are really good at things, like they want to be able to mentor people
Right.
and disseminate the information that they have gained, um, because our brains as they exist now, you can't do direct data transfers like from person to person. Like teaching is a very slow, deliberate process and is also difficult. And so like when you have an opportunity to be like, well, I have some knowledge in my brain and now I can like impart it onto somebody else so that they can take what I started
Right.
and make it even better potentially, or like just do it in their own specific way. But um, that in and of itself is very valuable. So that's a lesson that I take with myself to be like, even if somebody is like, super important and super busy, like I think um, if you ask them a good question that they are knowledgeable about, and they are going to want to give out that information.
Right.
And so you are also you're providing them a service by asking them, how did you get so good at what you do?
Yeah.
And so uh, that's yeah, I said this already. That's just something I keep in mind when I'm like reaching out to people, trying to talk about whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like you don't really need to be afraid to like talk to people because they want to talk to you too, or at least even if they don't, pretend that they do, and they will.
I mean, honestly, and even I think the way that you approach freestyling is like especially interesting because it's so studious. Like it feels like you are taking it so seriously, like pen and paper asking a question. And so I feel like that is also really appreciated by people who like feel like they've put a lot of work in,
Yeah.
because I feel like it makes them feel like you're also taking it really seriously, like you're not asking just to ask. So I don't know, I kind of like it. It's like refreshing.
Yeah, and maybe that's just like a function of my own personality. Like, I don't know specifically how everybody else goes through their entire process from beginning to end, how they got to where they are. Like, I can ask for nuggets, but it's like very here and there, and like I do take the ideas that I get seriously, because they know something that I don't. Everybody knows something that I don't know, right? Um, we will always know more than I, right? That's how the hive mind works, or whatever you want to call it. And so there's always something to learn from everybody, and people like people that are interested in them and want to know more about them. If you let people talk about themselves. I mean, I've been talking a lot because this is an interview and you're interviewing me. But like in normal situations, I'm usually the one asking more questions than just talking.
How does it feel to be switched around?
Feels weird, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
You don't like it?
I wouldn't say I don't like it, but I have been talking for a long time, and I don't usually talk for this long at like one stretch. And I'm kind of like noticing myself, like how my brain is like kind of like weaving in between different things, and I don't know how coherent it's going to be for the people watching on YouTube or wherever it is that this is going. But yeah, we doing it. So
well, I'll let you stop talking. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. This was so awesome.
Yeah, it was so fun. I feel like it was so interesting just understanding like how your mind works when it comes to freestyling. So thank you.
You should get in the booth too. Like, you just try it out and see what happens.
Now that's a bit much. Tell people where to find you.
Yes. Okay. So the name is Bijou. My name is Bijou Ede. I have a website, bijouede.com. That's bijouede.com. It's very bare bones. There's not really a lot on it, but you can get access to my socials and everything that's there. On Instagram, I go. My tag is Babylon Bijou. That's BABBLIN BIJOU. I think I spelled that right. And it is Animaniacs reference for anybody that is curious. All right. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.